All right, so I'm about 30 minutes late. I wanted to talk about the myths surrounding forgiveness today. And because it's kind of a funny thing that people have a lot of ideas about that I think are mostly bullshit. I am Karen Keener, the Sovereign Mom, and this is my talk on forgiveness and mainly the misconceptions and myths around forgiveness. I know as a mother that I have children, and so in our family, having children, the idea of teaching forgiveness is that if somebody hurts somebody and somebody apologizes, then it's the person who was hurt job to internally deal with their feelings in a way that they can forgive and so that they can accept and be friends again. However, as an adult, that is completely unrealistic, as most adults contending with forgiveness are dealing with people who never apologized, who never conceded to having done something wrong or perpetuated any hurt or grief in the life of the other person, who are unwilling to change. And so most of our jobs as adults would be very easy if it was just forgive and the work is done and you can be friends again. But that is not reality. Like, people think, oh, well, I just went through my life holding this anger and resentment for my parents and I disconnected from them, but they really loved me. And so all I had to do was forgive them and see them for who they truly were and forgive myself for being an idiot and not seeing them rightly. And then we were able to come together again. And while that may be some people's story, I have found largely that is not most people's story, at least if they're actively trying to work on forgiveness for those people in a very deep and profound way, that the majority of those situations are not just magically healed where they can have a relationship again by saying some magic words like, I forgive you and I forgive myself for being an idiot and not seeing you for who you were. Most of those situations are dealing with people that are non-repentant and will continue to perpetuate abusive or violent or toxic behaviors around the person that is working to forgive them. So it makes it even harder to forgive when you're right on top of each other. It makes it harder to, I should probably make sure that everybody can hear this because I don't think I turned on my microphone. Hopefully I did. Okay. Have I been talking all this time and nobody could hear me? My mic wasn't plugged. The mic battery wasn't turned on. Let me check and see what people are saying. Hold on one second. Let me see here if people are saying, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Let's see if that's what's happening. Hold on one second. Let me just go here. Here, I do this. I don't see any comments. Okay, so I was talking about the myths surrounding forgiveness. And, if nobody could hear me before, it might be because nobody was here. Anyway, long story longer, I was saying that if in case, I will re-edit and get back to this, if in case this was not heard initially or nobody was watching or whatever, I'm going to start over. When you're kids, the idea about forgiveness is take two. I'm Karen Keener of The Sovereign Mom. In case my mic wasn't on before, and it is now, I just wanted to come to you today to talk about forgiveness. To talk about how do I turn them? To talk about what myths and misperceptions people have around the idea of forgiveness and why. And so I'm going to start with explaining why I think people have so many myths around forgiveness. And it's this, that when we are children and we are trying to deal with forgiveness, it's usually like a sibling or a friend or another kid, and they hurt you, and then they say you're sorry, and then forgiveness is you working through your feelings so that you guys can be friends again, and they're sorry, they're not going to do it again, and you just have to get over your feelings so that you can be in a relationship with them again. Fantastic. However, in most adult relationships, it is not so. It is not so that people, how do I say this? People are repentant in the first place. So where there may be a situation in which you are actively trying to forgive your parents, and you come to this realization that your parents were probably right, and they were probably doing their best, and they loved you, and whatever set you off might have been more on your side than on theirs. It might have been more your perceptions about life that were wrong or silly or childish or something. And so when you came around to this larger understanding of who your parents were and what they were trying to do to you, for you, or on your behalf, you realized that there was love behind it, and that they were not intentionally or even at all hurtful, possibly. You just took it that way. And so when you come to forgiveness, you're able to have a relationship with your parents again. And that may be your story, but I would say for the most people that are working actively at forgiveness, like a deep, profound forgiveness, and spend a large portion of their life having a conflict with family that is just ongoing, it's not the lack of forgiveness that is keeping the relationship apart. And so, in fact, once forgiveness is achieved, it does not necessarily mean that the relationship will heal and come back together. Just because forgiveness happens on your end doesn't mean that it happened on their end of that scenario. And so this is where some of these myths come in, to where people believe that if you have hard stories to tell, like if you have bad things to say about your parents, that you haven't forgiven them. If you have negative things to say, if we had all positive stories with people, forgiveness would be a lot easier. That's true. But even if you achieve forgiveness, it doesn't make the negative stories of what happened in the past go away. So it doesn't mean that you haven't forgiven them just because you're telling the truth about how things were. The truth about how things were may still be ugly. It may still be negative. In fact, it may be so negative and so ugly and so ongoing and perpetual that you still don't have much nice to say about those people, but you still love them anyway, and you have learned to be able to forgive and to have love for them and to keep the love in your heart flowing towards them. The safest space to do that from is at a distance. One of my friends that taught in prisons, his name was Dan Milstein, he ran a organization called Visions for Prisons. And he would go into some hardcore prisons in Argentina, where some of these offenders were violent people that did terrible things, like sociopaths and just terrible, horrible, hardened criminals, violent offenders, not like in American system where it might be drug offenders or petty crimes or it's tax evasion or something. But these are, he was working primarily in Argentina with Visions for Prisons for a lot of it. And when he went into prisons to talk to people, he came out with the statement that some people are safer to love behind bars. And that was something where he was a friend of mine, and he said that to me in a Course in Miracles group that we were in, that some people are safer to love behind bars. And he meant that not just in a physical way, that some people may attack you, but he also meant it in a metaphorical way, as in some people you need to have distance from to love them, and some people need to not be able to hurt you again for you to love them. And to love them fully and completely, the more space between you, the more safety or cushion between you, the more sufficient, and the better your chances of being able to forgive them completely and fully, and to fully love them again. To forgive means to love as before. It means that love is flowing from your heart freely, openly. Forgiveness is almost synonymous with gratitude, like being grateful this person's alive, being grateful for the lessons that you've learned from your interactions with this person. It doesn't mean that you have to keep going back and relearning the lessons. Sometimes when you're grateful for something, you're grateful that it happened, and you're grateful that it doesn't mean you want to relive that experience. You're grateful for the lessons that you gained from that experience. It doesn't mean you want to perpetuate it over and over and over. And you might have that gold nugget from that lesson, and you're carrying it on to do better and learn bigger and better things, constantly evolving and growing and continuing to learn more. But there is this silly notion still perpetuated by a lot of people, like, and I get this a lot when people haven't heard my story or understand where I'm coming from, that I say that I separated from my parents and I have no longer anything to do with them, and that is for my best and my highest, my peace. They are disbelieving that I have forgiven them, and they are disbelieving that I'm not holding on to some kind of anger or resentment. And when I say things like crazy things like, I don't have a relationship with my father, and I haven't for several years, and he died last year, and I did not feel a lot of sadness about that when it happened. I felt somewhat nothing about it, about his death. They assume that I didn't have love for him, and I wasn't in a space of forgiveness that I could love him as I loved him before. I felt sad for my brothers and for the people that were still in relationship to him, that had a different relationship with him, that they lost. I felt very sad for them, for empathetic and sad for them. But for myself, when we went our separate ways, I grieved. So it wasn't like I didn't grieve a loss of my father. I just grieved it already. It already happened in my mind. Like, he was already dead to me, as sad or as cold as that may sound. I was already wishing him his best in the next plane of his life, whether on earth or in heaven. I was already knowing the best for him. And I would say that the only thing that shifted or changed since his passing is that now I feel as though I have a relationship where I can talk to him every day. Whereas when he was a person that I could restate my boundaries for over and over and over, and he would trespass or ignore or violate my boundaries that I was clearly stating for him, we did not have that sort of communication and that sort of relationship to where I could talk to him every day and feel comfortable about that. I knew that things that I said to him that I asked him to keep confidential were not going to be confidential. And so then I changed the relationship to where we had a relationship that was very superficial, and I wasn't able to talk to him about things of significance because I knew he couldn't keep them in confidence. And there was some need for him to constantly undermine my own authority in my own life, or my own emotional, like, just to tell me basically that make me feel like I was small, and make me feel like I was stupid or didn't know what I was doing, or doing things the wrong way, because we just didn't agree. And so then our conversations just got shorter and shorter, to the point where there was just less of a relationship there, to the point where the relationship eventually became like non-existent and pointless. And to even say, not just, oh, this relationship is pointless, but this relationship is like, when I call him, and even just trying to be as superficial and as short of a conversation as it is, it's like, if I could keep this conversation to 5 minutes, within that 5 minutes, he would say something that would be undermining and belittling to me. And at that point, I didn't see the point anymore. I didn't see a reason to continue to carry on having a relationship with someone like that. So the myth is that because when I finally decided that that was not acceptable for me, and that my 5 minutes could be better spent, and that there wasn't some kind of value to that, I wrote down a note. Like, I didn't want to script this. I wanted to speak from the heart, but I wanted to say that one of the myths is that after forgiveness of a violent, abusive, or toxic person, that once you've forgiven them, that your time is still best spent with them somehow, regardless of the fact that I may have changed for forgiving, but that the other person never changed, that our time is still, it's important to spend time with our parents regardless of how they treat us. This is not true. This is a myth. This is like, as long as we forgive, they should be able to treat us how they want, and that's okay. As long as we forgive, we shouldn't be triggered anymore by the things, or feel belittled by the belittling things. But there's also a point wherein you hear somebody belittling you and you just feel sad for them. You feel like, golly, like, you're so hurt, and you just feel this constant need to, like, project your insecurity and your hurt onto me or onto other people. Me, in the case with my father or my mother. And you can feel sad for them. But, like, why would you want to spend 5 minutes of your life feeling bad for hurt people? Like, when you could be spending that 5 minutes with somebody wonderful that is uplifting and inspiring, instead of just, like, rehashing this same circle of sadness, Whether or not your forgiveness and your growth has gotten to a point where they still hurt you or not, it's just like saying to someone that is around somebody that's physically, like, I forgave them for being physically violent to me. I do not need to subject myself to their attempts to try to physically hurt me. If you were around that person and you got so strong that you could combat whatever they were, like, throwing at you, and you had self-defense martial arts or something that you built up, you still don't put yourself in a situation where you're constantly having to defend yourself, or you're constantly having to, like, swat away you just go, okay, I don't want to do this anymore at a certain point. And for me to forgive you has nothing to do with whether or not you've forgiven me, or you've healed yourself, or you've done what needs to be done to have a relationship with me as a healthy person that's having healthy relationships in my life. So I just wanted to clear this up, because there is just some things that have been coming up lately where I see people with this notion that if we work on forgiveness within ourselves, that the relationships will heal. And that's not necessarily the case. Or that I've forgiven, so I should give them another chance. Forgiveness has nothing to do with whether or not you're going to try to have the same relationship with somebody again or not. It has nothing to do with that. They're two separate issues completely. Like, if you're going to have relationships with people, you're going to have relationships with people. If that's a choice that you make by weighing out certain risks and benefits of that relationship. Forgiveness has nothing to do with that. Forgiveness is just within yourself saying, I love that person, regardless of whether or not we have a relationship, and I'm going to feel this love. And I'm going to do everything I can to stay in forgiveness which may involve to stay and hold that sense of forgiveness with somebody that is a repeat offender at some point, to truly protect that forgiveness so that it's not just something that you have to constantly work at, is getting away from those people, toxic people and stuff. But a lot of times we believe that the true sign of forgiveness is that you have a relationship again. And that's couldn't be less true. The true sign of your forgiveness does not mean that you have a relationship with someone else again. If they're non-repentant, if they're not working on themselves, if they're not growing and you're growing, you could grow apart. I mean, they could be growing in a different way that doesn't have anything to do with you. They could like learn that they have different value sets than you do. And so at some point, even though you love each other and you're both working in your own way towards your own vision and your own in your own set of values, that you just have like really nothing in common anymore. And that your time is better spent with people that are supporting you and nurturing you in that way. Having to force yourself to have a relationship with somebody just to prove to yourself that you've forgiven or healed that whatever toxic shit that was there once before in your heart, that it doesn't do anything. It means you probably haven't healed. If you're still trying to like force yourself to be with someone, you may not have forgiven. I would say it's almost the opposite of what you think it is in those circumstances. Because why would you need to put yourself through that? Why would you need to suffer or perpetuate an endless situation where you're having to like dodge and weave and combat somebody that's coming at you all the time, if you are truly happy and healed and self-loving and forgiving and open, forgiving doesn't mean I'm a forgiving person. That means I'm like constantly in the state of needing to forgive you for being an asshole so that you can just continue to be an asshole around me because I'm a forgiving person. That's not forgiveness. That's self-loathing or self-sabotage or a big waste of your time. Like it's just a time suck and energy is going to the wrong places. And this is why I kind of go back to boundaries where people put them up, because people tend to put the boundary up here when they should put the boundary up like out there, and they should be trying to fill up this with as much love and as much loving experiences and to continue to like grow and evolve. Like the boundary should be like an expanding container of embracing more love and joy in your life and more harmony. So, wouldn't it be great if somebody just taught us how to like bring those harmonious, loving people in our lives and to keep our focus on healing in the right ways? Well, guess what? I'm going to be opening the doors, I believe, next Monday for my Find Your Tribe workshop. And it's going to be teaching about how to draw in the people that share your vision and values and to prioritize those relationships, to continue to work on yourself and your vision and your values, and to keep that container of boundaries expanding so that you're bringing more in of the good stuff that you want to focus on in your life. And I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a 3-day workshop, probably an hour and a half to 2 hours each day of that workshop. It's going to be for an extremely affordable price. And I'm just super excited about it. And I wanted to do this little talk to kind of present the idea and the notion that we don't have to constantly obsess over trying to forgive people and keep them in our lives anymore. That we can, forgiveness is almost like holding something so tight that your hands hurt, and or non-forgiveness, I should say. And when we forgive, it's kind of like letting it go and then being open to feeling love and having the people in our lives that deserve our love in them. So I want to help people find their tribe, to find the people that we do want to have happy, harmonious relationships with, instead of trying to struggle with this person or that person, to draw in the kind of people that we more resonate with, whose values we share, so that we're going and growing and going in the same direction. I have found a lot of these people in my life, and I spend most of my time and energy that I can with that type of people. And I would love to share with you all how to do that and how I achieved that sort of balance and harmony in my life, to make my life more productive, to make me better at going after things that are financially enriching, and of course, obviously for my heart, enriching. Just people that I just love being around and talking to, and being able to like feel this mutual love from these people that are just wonderful, instead of feeling this constant sense of you're not good enough from people that don't even share my values, that I don't even look up to, really. It's like, if I'm around people that I admire and that they admire me back, that is super, like, I don't know how to express it except that it feels really good. And it feels like all the ways in which I was trying to do things before were just exhaustive, and not in a good way, and somewhat wasteful. And that we have all this energy. We're like, humans are like superpower lights of this world, and we can start sharing that light and spreading that light and building on that light and growing that light, just like getting brighter and brighter, if we are invested in the right things. And so that's what I want to show you how to do through this workshop. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. It's experiential. We're going to get to do a lot of things. You get to tap deeper into your light, into what makes you happy and joyful, and to continue to build on that and to grow your life into that, like into the light of what really makes you buzz, makes you high and happy, makes you feel wonderful about living every day and feel excited about waking up every day. So that is going to be opening next Monday. Please stay tuned. And I would highly suggest that you subscribe to my blog, because subscribers will get a discount, and paid subscribers will get a huge discount. And so there's that that I want to throw out there. But yeah, follow the blog, because that's coming. And that will be a big benefit for you as a subscriber, to get that kind of the discounts on this workshop. It is my beta launch, so I'm hoping that if I get 40 people in there, tops, probably is my max that I want right now, because I want feedback. I want the people that join not to just be there, but to also be there to help me hone it and make it a better course, so that I can really help humanity. Because I feel so called to share from my experiences, and I've had so many, and from reading all these books on boundaries and doing all these self-help courses and spending, hundreds of $1,000s on various modalities of healing and therapy and workshops and courses and other types of groups and communities that I've gotten myself involved in, and relationships to help me heal and grow and learn, that I want to share that with the world, so that they too are not running around with this notion that they have to keep struggling in life and spending their $100,000 on trying to make this work after thousands of hours, like I did. I want to make that simpler for all of you through my experience. And so I will be offering this on Monday, and I hope that you will all consider doing it. And again, subscribing to my Substack, so that you will get the notification and a code for, and for the members, super discount. You're gonna be shocked when you see what it costs. It's gonna be like, you're gonna laugh and you're gonna go, oh my gosh, of course I'm gonna do that course, because it's so affordable for the people that are paid subscribers to my Substack. So, and a paid subscriber to my Substack is $9 a month. So you can get a huge discount for $9 a month. And I highly recommend you do that. At any rate, yes, so this course will be opening next Monday. My Substack is thesovereignmom.substack.com. I will put that link in the comments below this video. And I hope that you join me, and we build our tribe together, and we continue to grow together the best ways possible in developing our visions and living in our visions and tapping into our values and finding the people that share those visions and values to create community with, that help us to continue to grow and to continue to like love the lives we're living and to model by that love and light to the rest of the world. Thank you so much for watching today, and I look forward to your joining us in the workshop in the next few weeks, signing up and getting in the group and joining everybody in this wonderful process of healing and learning that we will be going through together. So thank you. Have a fantastic day.